Good morning, afternoon, or evening, my Dashful dudes. Today, we're going to be on the subject of r/Tales from Retail. This is going to feature some r/wholesome and r/entitled parents. But let's get right into it with our first story of the day. And let me tell you, there are some doozies further on down the line. Y'all just wait for it. Our first story of the day comes from the user Cold Stew. It's called, "A customer was too lazy to hand me a broken product and caused an extreme fire hazard." This happened to me a few months ago at the supermarket I work at. As most do, my store sells more than just food. We have all the items you could need to host a party or do some basic home repairs. It was these items that caused this issue at my register. For those who aren't familiar with working retail, when a customer doesn't need an item anymore, they can happily return it to the cashier and have it go backed or restocked. However, some customers do feel guilty or are afraid to present the item, so they just lay it somewhere. Usually, this could be chalked up to annoying, and it takes an extra 30 seconds to pick up after them. However, it was in my situation that this shyness could have caused my entire register to light fire. I clocked into work, and I started ringing up customers. After about 5 minutes, I start to smell something funny. I keep smelling, and after about 10 minutes, I realize it smells like a gas station. So I look around and figure it would pass, as most smells in the store do. After 20 minutes of checking people out, I start to get a headache, so I closed my register and started to search for where the gas smell was coming from. After looking around the base of the register and under the shelves on my side, I look at the candy racks. We have small baskets suspended over the ends of the belts with 5-hour energy and granola bars for sale. Each one has 2 layers. There I see, behind a box of energy shots, a leaking bottle of lighter fluid. Someone noticed that their bottle was leaking and hid it above where food goes. I instantly put it in a bag and cleaned my belt and shut my register off. We have old technology, and quite frankly, I wouldn't be surprised to find exposed wiring under the belts of our register. I've always known people are lazy, and I don't like to turn in go-backs, but this was something else. Honestly, I'm baffled at how lazy people can be or how scared they can be to not go up to somebody and get this situation fixed. Like, you saw that the lighter fluid was leaking and you put it above where food is, intoxicating all of that food below it and causing toxic fumes to go into other people's system. What were you thinking? Our next story for today comes from Idiota Randoma, in which a kind man helps a nice old lady in a bind. This is honestly one of the most wholesome stories that I have come across on this entire website while going through the r/Tales from Retail. Really puts a smile on my face. After 3.5, going on 4 years in retail hell, this is my first really nice, wholesome story. Working in the redacted auto care center doesn't make for many pleasant days, and usually customers are just having conversation and then they're on their way. But this guy is probably one of the most benevolent customers I've encountered. It was a normal afternoon and things were winding down. Had a few customers in for tire replacements, flat repairs, etc. And one little old lady getting her battery checked on her car. She's sitting in our waiting area, chatting with a nice old gentleman who's getting tires on his truck. It was later made apparent that they were 2 total strangers, but I had no idea. They were having a nice time chatting away like they were friends, as far as I could tell. And this isn't a big town, so it wouldn't be uncommon. I had overheard the lady sounding very concerned on whether she could afford a new battery if hers was bad. It was nearly a $140 unit after taxes and such, and I guess she's on fixed income, as many folks are out here. I wasn't optimistic, though, as her old battery was already 6 years old, a miracle in Texas, and long out of any kind of warranty. After a while, the gentleman comes up to my counter, out of earshot of her, and he said to me, "I'm going to buy that woman over there a new battery. How much is it?" I pull it up, and I go fetch and ring it up for him. He instructed me not to tell her until after he'd left that he paid for it. And I agreed. I took the battery out and let the guys in the shop know what was up, and they put the battery in pretty quick. It was a bit too quick, though, as her battery was done before his tires. She comes up to the counter and starts to make out a check as I begin to wonder what to do, given that I said I wouldn't tell her yet. But the man comes up and tells her not to worry about writing that check, that he'd bought her that battery. It took her a moment to process it, I think, But she started crying and thanked him for his kindness. Still crying, she said that God had blessed her that day, and she had thanked him a couple of times more. All the while, he's just reassuring her it wasn't a big deal, and he was happy to do it. I handed her the receipt, and she was on her way. The gentleman thanked me for my part and all that, paid for his tires when they were ready, and then he too went on his merry way. Our next story comes from user Captain Cup 12, and it's simply titled, Something Stinks. And honestly, this is one of the funniest stories I've read on Tales from Retail. This happened a good few years ago, but always sticks in my mind as one of my favorite moments of working in retail. TLDR at bottom. Scene. I was, and still am, a shift manager for a medium-sized grocery shop, which is part of a chain, etc. This particular night, I was on shift with my coworker, who also happened to be my then girlfriend. Don't poop where you eat, folks. Anyway, I was in the process of doing cash lifts from the tills. Store was quiet, no customers, and I really needed to fart. So I let a silent one slip, and by God, the stink could have KO'd an elephant. That's a pretty nice feat right there. Next thing, a customer approaches with his 5-year-old-ish looking kid, followed behind by my girlfriend to serve him. This is the following exchange. M, me. G, girlfriend. C, customer. Girlfriend. Ugh. What's that smell? Was that you? Glares at me. Me, straight as face possible. Nope. Customer. Looks kinda annoyed, kinda embarrassed. Was that you? The kid was in near tears at this point and answered, no, almost pleading at her dad to believe her. At this point, I walked through the door behind the till area into the office and sat down. My girlfriend then came into the office complaining about the smell. I burst out laughing and owned up that it was me, which then turned her into a cracking up and saying, now that poor child, her dad blamed her for it. Just a random retail memory that came back to me. Hope it gave you a laugh. It did. TLDR. Farted at tills with no customers. Customer came around and smelt it. Blamed his kid. I don't know if you all found that funny, but I certainly did. Having worked in a retail-like environment, this really hits home to me because the customer can fart and they'll blame it on you. It's never really their kids that get blamed or themselves. They always try to pass the blame to somebody else. So it was kind of funny to see the guy farting and then the customer blaming the fart on his kid. Our next story comes from Shade Interactive, Tales from Beyond, The Candle Conundrum, and this is the one that has the entitled parent. Fixed so there is no biz name, because apparently that's illegal or something. For that purpose, the biz name has been replaced with The Beyond, so we should be okay. We can pretend I literally worked in an alternate dimension so Reddit doesn't have to worry about scaring potential advertisers. Wanted to quickly post this while on my lunch break because reading all of these stories in this sub has brought back some memories. When I was in high school, I would work in The Beyond after school when it wasn't football season. I'd do a bit of everything from cashiering to stocking to cleaning to working the floor, not that we made commission or anything, because we were always chronically understaffed and had high turnover. This was almost 10 years ago, so I'm sure I'm forgetting some details, but one night a lady came in with who I assume was her mother, inquiring about our candle selection. I showed them our scent section, where all the candles and oils and plug-in type things were, and they thanked me, so I assumed that was that, and I told them to just flag me down if they needed anything. Just a couple minutes later, they do so and ask about a particular candle. Apparently, she's getting married that Saturday/Sunday. I believe it was a Wednesday or Thursday, and wants a whole bunch of this exact candle to put on tables or whatever for the wedding. We have maybe a dozen, max, of this particular candle in stock. I explain this to her and get a snappy, just get them out of the back. Seeing as I'm the one who stocks everything every day, I know for a fact that there aren't 150 of this exact candle just laying around in the back. Thankfully, there's an employee computer terminal right there, so I just bring them over to the computer and pull up our actual computer inventory that tells us exactly how many of each item the store has, including a breakdown of how many are out on the floor and how many are in the back. Sure enough, these dozen are all we have. Well, naturally, that's cause for a temper tantrum. How dare we not stock 150 of this exact candle at all times? We're doing this intentionally to ruin her wedding. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's see what we can do. First, let's see what the other stores near us have in stock. It's fairly common for us to move inventory between stores depending on demand, or to call a store that does have an item in stock and ask them to hold it for a customer that's willing to drive out there and get it. I start looking and quickly realize every store only has about 1 or 2 dozen at max of these candles if they have them at all. I start explaining that she's gonna have to spend the next 2 days driving to stores all over the state to get these candles when I get shut down immediately with the, "What the heck's wrong with you? You idiot, you're wasting my time. Just order them for me." Okay, that is a route we can go. Not sure what policy is now, but back then, if there was an item we didn't have in stock that a customer wanted, we could take them over to the terminal and order it for them. We'd even have it delivered straight to your house for you, free of charge. Let's bear in mind here that you're getting married in 2 to 3 days. We will only do standard shipping for free. If you want expedited shipping, you have to pay the difference. I radio my manager, and he comes over to do what he can. Surprise, surprise, he says he's not going to waive overnight shipping for her. Now, if any of you out there have ever worked in the beyond, you know that we're taught to do everything humanly possible to bend over backwards for customers, and especially if you hear the words bride or wedding, don't utter the words bridal registry within earshot of the beyond, or you may get tackled by an overzealous manager. Unfortunately for our bride-to-be, my managers just could not authorize something this expensive. Her and her partner immediately throw a fit and throw the box of a dozen candles they've been holding to the ground, causing some to shatter and then storm out. Man, that sounds like r/temper tantrum. Maybe not the most exciting of stories, but even all these years later, I often wonder how that marriage is doing, and thought some of you here may be able to relate with similar experiences, or just enjoy the story of the candle conundrum. The important thing to remember is that it's never your fault for not planning. You knew was coming months ahead of time and then try to bully your way to get hundreds of candles shipped directly to your door the next day with no shipping fees. I could be wrong, but I also think they tried to get us to give them the dozen candles for free before they threw them. If you're wondering who got to clean up the broken glass and candle wax that flew everywhere, it was this lucky guy right here. Fun times. I don't miss working in retail whatsoever. Well, my Dashful dudes, that's going to be it for today on r/Tales from Retail. I really wanted to fit another story in there, but it was too long and it would have padded the runtime to almost 30 minutes long, so I just left it out. However, with that being said, if you like this video, go ahead and click that subscribe button and give it a like. Drop more references down in the comments. I really want to see what y'all want me to react to and read.